What's up, YouTube? It's Derek, YouTube channel Fast FZ09. I've had a couple people lately on my channel comment and ask if I could do an overall bike review on my FZ09, Yamaha FZ09 2014 model, and just kind of go over my bike and go over my bike setup, how I have mine set up for my preferences and for the kind of riding that we do, and just the general modifications, aftermarket parts I've done to my bike, the pros and cons to each, just benefits, whatnot. But anyway, here it is. This is a 2014 Yamaha FZ09. I bought this bike about a year ago, and when I bought it, honestly, I really didn't know that much about the motorcycle. I knew it was really highly anticipated from all the magazine reviews that I'd read on it, and online commentary. A lot of people were really excited about it, saying that in 2014 it was one of the most highly anticipated bikes to come out of Japan in the last 5 years. First off, I've always been a huge fan of Yamaha motorcycles in general. I think as a company, Yamaha takes what they learn at the highest levels of racing, be it MotoGP, World Superbike, Moto America Series here in the States, and I really think that they take what they learn at the highest levels of racing, and it does trickle down to their street bikes. In 2009, the R1s went to a cross-plane crankshaft. This is a triple-cylinder motorcycle, 847cc triple, but it's also got a cross-plane crankshaft, so that technology does trickle down. When I bought this motorcycle in 2014, I bought it last summer, and I had read some of the reviews, but not everything, and I got it, and I started doing a little more research on it after I'd made the purchase, and everybody kept saying in the reviews that the suspension on this bike was just absolute shit, that it was no good, you couldn't ride it, and I was like, fuck, did I just buy a motorcycle that has basically, mountain bike suspension on it? And it's not that bad, man. I posted a review, I guess I posted that video 7 or 8 months ago. It's on my playlist. You guys can find it on my YouTube channel, Fast FZ09. It's just titled FZ09 Stock Suspension. Where basically what we did with mine is every year Sport Rider magazine comes out with recommended suspension settings for different motorcycles. It's come up with through collaborations with riders of all different abilities and different levels, and they come up with a suggested setting for the particular bike, and we adjusted mine to that. And I'm not going to get into all that right now because this video is just the overall review video, but the stock suspension, once you get it adjusted and once it breaks in properly, it's really not that bad. So my suspension is stock components, even down to the fork oil and shock oil, just stiffened up a little bit, adjusted to the settings recommended by Sport Rider. But it's stock componentry. So once I made the decision that for the kind of riding that we do, we ride primarily in the mountains. That's basically all that we do. Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, Southern Virginia, that's pretty much our stomping grounds. We ride there a majority of weekends. We ride there a lot, actually. So the suspension setting that I have right now, I'm happy with it, I'm comfortable with it, and I'm confident with it. So I decided, well, shit, let's make the bike faster, let's make it more powerful. So let's start with the exhaust. The very first thing that we put on it was a Yoshimura R77 stainless exhaust. In previous bikes that I've owned, I've had an R6, and I owned a track-only GSXR 1000 Suzuki with a buddy of mine. We live 45 minutes from VIR, about an hour and a half from Kershaw, South Carolina. So years ago, we got to do a lot of track riding, and we bought a bike specifically for that. But yeah, I've had Leo Vents exhaust and Yoshimura on previous motorcycles, so I really like the Yoshimura product. I think, for the money, you get a lot for what you pay for. And this is the R77, a pretty popular exhaust, actually probably their most racing-inspired exhaust. But this is stainless. That's what the bike is offered in. No, I could have gone with a different manufacturer and gone with titanium. But like I said a minute ago, the kind of riding that we do up in the mountains, there's a lot of stone chips, a lot of gravel on some of the roads that we ride, and the guys that I've been riding with, we've been riding the same roads for years and years, and I trust the guys that I ride with emphatically. I have thousands and thousands of miles with those guys, and we'll be pretty close sometimes, riding on 2 or 3 feet apart on certain roads, which is fun, especially with guys that you trust, guys of your ability. But riding that close, stuff gets kicked up off of rear tires of bikes, and the headers could be easily dented or chipped. If you went with titanium for the kind of riding that we went, you would save a little bit of weight, obviously with tie over steel. But yeah, I went with steel, man. It's just a little more durable. And with this bike being so exposed, a naked bike, obviously you don't have a bottom belly pan, and so the headers are pretty much, as you can see, they're just hanging over the street, which it's cool. It's eye candy. It looks good aesthetically. It's very pleasing. But you know, I wanted something a little more durable, so I went with steel. So yeah, it's got an awesome look to it, man. And you know, with the aftermarket exhaust, especially if you replace the entire thing, you know, you eliminate the cat. There's no catalytic converter. It looks a lot better. It's a lot lighter. The power to weight ratio on your motorcycle is going to improve. It's going to sound better. It's going to run better. But M4 exhaust makes a slip-on for the FZ09, but it's pretty stupid how it works. It's you know, they're the only company right now that makes a true slip-on for the Yamaha FZ09. And to install the M4, because I looked at it, you basically have to cut the pipe, cut the cat off, and then weld it on there. So I'm like, why in the fuck would anybody decide to go that route? Why not just buy a full exhaust? More performance, more bang for the buck, easier to install. And yeah, that was a no-brainer for me. I like the carbon tip too. Yosh just looks sweet. So then obviously, you know, the air-fuel ratio was going to change because we went with a full exhaust. So you gotta put a fuel controller on there. So I already got the seat loosened up. We'll pop the seat up here, and you guys can see I've got the I got a Bazzaz Z5 fuel controller. It's a piggyback unit. You know, I've had on different bikes that I've owned in the past. Like I said, I've had Power Commander products. Power Commander builds awesome fuel controllers and fuel injection products, but I'm just a huge fan of Amar Bazzaz. For you guys that don't know Amar Bazzaz, the owner and founder of Bazzaz Performance, he was the crew chief and the lead software engineer and software developer, kind of when traction control and you know, electronic fuel injection was really becoming really high tech and really sophisticated. And he was Matt Mladen's crew chief here in the States before Mladen retired and before Spies went to Race World Superbike in 2009. And anyway, Amar was the chief engineer for all the software run on the Yoshimura Suzukis. And he branched out and started his own software company, which later turned into Bazzaz Performance. So that's just a personal choice. I mean, they both work equally well. But yeah, anyway, it's the Z5 unit, no traction control. It's just fuel injection only. And as you can see, it piggybacks onto the stock ECU, which the ECU is under the fuel tank. And the wiring harness runs all the way to that. It piggybacks, and basically all a fuel controller does is it just interprets data and reconfigures the fuel map through the ECU. That's basically how it works. It's a piggyback unit. Now the benefit to it is if I were ever to sell this motorcycle, you know, I can take that fuel controller off and take it with me and transfer it to my next bike. So that's the benefit. Or if you had just had the, you know, if I just sent the ECU in and had the ECU reflashed and had the fuel map done through the ECU, then, you know, if I were ever to sell the bike, obviously I couldn't take that with me. So that's one benefit to it. And then as far as just to kind of lighten the bike up, well, I got the seat up. I'll go ahead and show you guys this. I've got an anti-gravity lightweight battery, which it's a lithium ion battery. It's pretty expensive actually. That battery was around it was around $240 or something like that to get it. But by going with that battery, it's more cranking amps than the stock unit. It has, as you guys can see, it's got brass terminals on it, so it's a little bit beefier, really bit, as far as the build quality, it's better. So, and it's a lot lighter. You know, you dropped almost 6.5 pounds, nearly 7 pounds, just by installing that battery. And you know, you can buy all the carbon fiber and titanium pieces that you want to put on a motorcycle, but the best bang for the buck if you're trying to get the weight down on your motorcycle is simply to strap in a lightweight battery. And you know, Shirai makes some. I went with anti-gravity. This is a direct OEM fit, where if you guys have ever seen like on a race bike, you know, if they go with a lightweight battery, there will be foam padded in around the battery case because the case is so much smaller. But this is an OEM direct fit, so as you can see, it's the same exact size as you know, as the stock OEM battery. So it's just a direct drop-in replacement. There's no foam that needs to be added. So yeah, I got a lot of weight reduction done with that. Pop the seat back on. Also, this bike has got a it's been dyno tuned, and it was actually dyno tuned by Max Speed Cycles. I live in Central North Carolina, and right down the road is Kernersville, North Carolina, from where I live. And that's actually the same shop that tuned Danny Eslick's GSXR 600 this past year, and that same exact bike that he was riding that they tuned won the Daytona 200. So Yeah, these guys are incredible tuners, man. They really know what the hell they're doing. So if you guys are in North Carolina, check out Max Speed. Those guys will hook you up. But this bike has Graves block-off plates. And because I got the bike dyno tuned, what the block-off plates do is they're basically just two plates that go over the stock air injection, and there's a little nipple that plugs over the air injection hose. And basically what it does is it eliminates all the parts on the bike that are there for emissions. So the system is no longer pumping fresh air. There's no longer fresh air being injected to the line. And so if you get the bike dyno tuned, you have to get those plates installed to give you a true, accurate AFR, air fuel ratio reading on the dyno. So I took these out to show you guys. This is the stock line that was on the air injection, and basically by going with the block-off plates, you're able to eliminate all this off the motorcycle. So you save a little bit of weight. That's not the main benefit. The main benefit is so you can get an accurate air fuel ratio reading on the dyno. But yeah, you're able to eliminate all this. There's less clutter under your tank, so that's good. And these were the stock plates that were on the air injection. You guys can check that out. The Graves units are just they're just a little bit higher quality, a lot better quality actually. Driven makes the same product. They're both about $35 or so. Pretty labor intensive to put them on. They're actually Van with sport bike track gear. If you guys check out sport bike track gear on YouTube, just look under their build series. They're 2014 bikes, and Van goes through how they installed the Graves block-off plates on this particular motorcycle. So that's a really good video if you guys want to check it out. It's like 25-30 minutes long, but it's worth it. So anyway, you have to do that if you're going to get your bike dyno tuned to get an accurate reading. The same shop that Max Speed that dynoed it, they also asked if they could modify the airbox if I was opposed to that, and I was going for max power, so I said no, go ahead, whatever you guys are the geniuses with it, so whatever you guys suggest doing, I'm on board for that and game with that for that. And they modified the airbox. Basically what they did is they cut 3 holes in the airbox to just flow a little bit more air, and the bike also has a K&N Air Filter installed. I was going to go with the BMC. BMC offers 2. They offer a standard and they offer a race version. But when I was getting all the work done on my bike, it was last year, and the BMC wasn't released yet, or it was really hard to find. And RevZilla and all the guys online, they started offering the K&N, so I was like, fuck it, I'll go ahead and get the K&N. So K&N builds an awesome product. So it's got a K&N air filter in it. It's also got the Bazzaz map select switch up here. It's got 2 maps. It's got a dry map and a wet map. So in the up position, that is the wet map. Down position is full power, which is the map that I run it in for maximum power with the dyno. And it's also programmed to run in A mode. So you have A, standard, and B mode on the FZ09, but basically by having mine done, it's mapped, it's tuned to solely run in A mode. So it's A mode with the map select switch in the down position, and that's full power. That's how I ride the bike. All right, so going over, let's just start at the front and work our way back. So real quick, I got an ASV front brake lever. ASV levers are pretty pricey. That lever's about 150 bucks. There's a lot of guys on YouTube that say, you can buy cheaper Chinese knockoff levers, but I don't give a fuck what they say. It's not the same thing. A Kia is not a Cadillac. I mean, you get what you pay for. The benefit to the ASV is it's adjustable. You can just rotate that dial and adjust the distance between for your size fingers. And I always cover the brake with one finger anyway. That's just the preference that I like, the feel that I like. It's also bend away, or break away. So if the bike were to tip over, it's a standard length lever. It's not a shorty. I do not like shorties. I like standard length. But yeah, it's just a cool lever, man. And my clutch lever is stock. I'm not so concerned. I mean, it's not the greatest looking, but I'm all about functionality with this thing, and not considered, I guess, not trying to have the baddest looking bike. I want the best running bike. So I'm impartial as far as how my clutch lever feels, but your front brake, obviously that is like so fucking important on a motorcycle. So I like for my front brake to have a certain feel, and I really am happy with the ASV. It's an awesome lever. you can see my brake lines too running through there. I've got stainless brake lines from Spiegler. You can see those working their way down. It's a really neat setup. Splits off, and I've got stainless lines in the front, and I've also got Spiegler stainless lines in the rear. Just with the blue, just for anodized, you can pick out the color that you want. You can get clear, you can get all these colored if you like, but I just got clear. But yeah, I got stainless lines front and rear. Spiegler is the #1 brand recommended by Sport Bike Track Gear. You know, Spiegler is fantastic. Galfer makes an awesome brake line. So does HEL. HEL, they make a good brake line as well. But I just went with Spiegler. You know, always heard good things about it. And if you guys have never ridden with stainless lines on your motorcycle, if you just ride with the rubber lines that are OEM, you don't really realize how shitty the stock brakes are until you replace those lines with steel or stainless lines. And you know, we ride in the mountains a lot, and on some of the roads, you know, some of the roads that we ride up around Boone and you know, eastern Tennessee and stuff, and Wilkesboro, Virginia, I mean, some of the roads are pretty hard on your brakes, and your brakes can get really hot. And with stainless lines, the line's not going to expand and start to fade like the stock OEM lines will. So that's another awesome thing that a lot of guys tend to overlook when they're you know, modifying even a street bike. Obviously at the track, everybody's going to have them, but they can benefit you on the street as well too. So yeah, an ASB lever combined with stainless Spiegler brake lines. As far as protection for the motorcycle, start here at the front. I've got Woodcraft front axle sliders on either side. And basically what these are going to do, it's a quick release, so it just adds like 5 seconds to a wheel change. Plus they look good. And really what these are designed to do, if I were ever to lay this bike down, God forbid, knock on wood, it's going to protect the really expensive front fork lowers. So they're 60 bucks. That's cheap insurance for that. Here in the front, you guys can see I've got a GBRacing front radiator guard. You know, one of the cool things about a naked bike is obviously you can see everything because it's so exposed, but that also makes the bike more vulnerable. And if you don't kind of add some things on your bike to protect it, you could be asking for a really expensive repair if the bike were ever to crash. So Cox radiator guards are what's used by 90% of all track riders, 90% of all racers. This is the same exact company that, you know, that outfits, you know, like Josh Hayes' R1 for Graves Yamaha, Cam Bobier's bike. And all the top racers run them. GBRacing is out of, they're out of the Pacific Northwest. I think it's Washington or Oregon, one of those two states. But I ordered that direct from Cox. It's about 100 bucks, and it's just aluminum. And the benefit to it is the mesh is a lot tighter than some other manufacturers. So I mean, you're going to have bugs and debris on it, obviously, but what that's designed to do is just to protect rock chips, you know, just any kind of debris that could kick up and damage your radiator. And you know, $100 is way fucking cheaper than having to replace the whole damn radiator. So I got that done. It looks good. I got the red. You can get this in standard black, you know, brushed aluminum, anodized aluminum, but you can choose a variety of colors. Just for a bling factor, just for something cool, I went with red on that. Then the next thing you got on here, this is a really controversial thing, is frame sliders. Just like I have Woodcraft in the front, I've also got Woodcraft frame sliders on the bike on both sides, as you can see. And frame sliders are one of those things that if I were to ask 10 riders, you know, what's your take on frame sliders? 5 of them, 5 out of 10, 50% are going to say, you know, I would never not have a bike that did not have them. And the other 5 guys are going to say, oh, fuck that, I would never run them on my motorcycle. And the reason for that is there are times where if you were to crash and this bike were to slide down the road or the track or whatever, there's going to be times when the slider is going to work exactly as it's designed to do. There's other times that, you know, the bike could be sliding and the slider could catch something or bounce off of something and cause the bike to go into an end-over-end tumble. It can happen either way, but the way I look at it, on a naked motorcycle, you have absolutely no protection. Like, obviously, I mean, it's naked, you know, so you have no side fairings, you have no belly pan, no lower fairings. I like that because you can see, you know, the bike is aesthetically pleasing. You can see all the technology, see all the aftermarket goodies. If you modify anything, you can see it. but it's not protected. So in my personal opinion, solely my opinion, on a naked bike, you are an idiot if you don't put fucking frame sliders on your shit, because just added protection, man. And you can see on this bike, you know, if this thing were to go down, it's going to protect the radiator as well. So that's my personal opinion. Woodcraft, for those of you that don't know, Woodcraft was started and is owned by Eric Wood. Eric Wood is a super accomplished AMA and endurance racer, AMA pro from Massachusetts. And he and his team have designed for years products, Woodcraft products, that are really focused for the track, because obviously he's a racer. But the build quality on these is fantastic. And, you know, that's just personal preference, man. So, you know, if you guys are in the market for some, I recommend Woodcraft. That's what I run. I've always had good results with them. But, again, just personal preference. Then following with the Woodcraft theme, on the rear I've also got rear axle sliders, which, you know, function just like they do in the front. Quick release pins on either side. They look really trick, man. They look really, really damn factory. But then they got a Woodcraft logo sketched on the side, which is pretty sweet. But these are going to protect the swing arm in the case of a crash. Again, just protection. I got grave spools on either side, as you guys can see, just to, you know, just put your stand up on it. Other thing for protection I've got here too, I've also got GBRacing engine case covers. You can see there's 4 individual pieces, 2 on this side, going around here, 2 more over here. Now that is a really expensive part. Those 4 pieces were like $340 just for 4 pieces of basically hard plastic. But GBRacing, you know, there's all kinds of companies that you can buy engine guards for. Woodcraft actually makes them too. But I went with GBRacing. If you guys look at you know, close-up pictures or video of the top bikes in any series you can think of, all the way from, you know, top-level MotoGP bikes, bikes that are running like the Northwest 200 in Ireland, you know, road racing such as the Isle of Man TT, all the Honda bikes in the TT, and all the BMW bikes as well. Actually, Michael Dunlop's BMW. They all run GBRacing engine case covers, as well as a lot of riders here in the States run them in Moto America. Just really sweet, man. They're a direct bolt-on. They just bolt on your existing covers. But, you know, I mean, $300 and some for 4 damn pieces of plastic. Yes, I understand that's fucking expensive, but this is insurance. That's all it is. If this bike were to go down, I guarantee you $300 worth of covers is way, way cheaper than the alternative. Then these cases getting cracked, dirt getting in the engine, oil leaking everywhere. It's just, and it's kind of eye candy, obviously, but that's more insurance. So GBRacing engine case covers. What else do we have here? On the tank, I've got TechSpec traction pads on either side. This is the snake skin, which is pretty abrasive. That's just personal preference, kind of, you know, I mean, gives you a little bit of grip. I've ridden stomp grip pads, which is real similar with a knurled surface. I've ridden stomp grip in the past on different, I actually had them on my R6, and I've got Cortec leathers, and they're just too fucking abrasive for me, man. I just think they just tear your leathers up. But I've also got a, I get a lot of comments on this too on my channel. Not sure why, but it's people ask me what kind of seat pad I'm running. You guys can see it's just I took the passenger strap off my bike. But yeah, this is just an adhesive pad. It's manufactured by the same company. You guys can see, TechSpec. I bought this from RevZilla, and they offer 4 different cuts, and it's just a 3M adhesive backing that applies directly onto the seat. And the reason that I went with this is the kind of riding that we do is pretty aggressive. I mean, we're not really doing a lot of commuting or just a lot of squid riding around town. We don't really get into that. We're more into the mountain riding, full leathers, you know, that type of stuff. So we're riding pretty aggressive. And just my personal preference, like if you guys have ever ridden or even just seen a motorcycle with race bodywork installed or ridden one, by the time you put race bodywork on a motorcycle, it's good. The seat is going to be generally really flat for the most part. And The Yamaha seat on the FZ09 has the stock seat is really comfortable. Some guys say it's not, but then again, you know, some motherfuckers are going to bitch about everything. But the stock seat has a pretty pronounced dip in it, and you know, for the kind of riding that we do, we're moving around the bike a lot, hanging off the side, and I like the seat to feel as flat as possible. You know, you can't install race bodywork on it, but you can kind of get the same feeling by having a pad that's going to fill in that gap. So that just kind of helps me out. It's you know, it raises the seat height, as you can see, just by a couple of millimeters in the back. That took a little bit getting used to, but it just kind of fills in that dip. It's more of a flat seat feel than the stock one. If you guys, you know, if you don't ride your FZ09 aggressively, if you don't do any track riding, if you don't, you know, go to if you live out west, if you don't go to the canyons, or you don't ride in the mountains if you're here on the East Coast, you know, you might be better suited with the stock seat. You know, if you're more of a commuter, just kind of casually riding your bike around, nothing wrong with that. But the stock seat is actually probably more comfortable. That is just, for me, it's just personal comfort and just my personal feel on what I want the bike to feel like. So yeah, if you guys can check that out if you want. I know some guys were asking about it. It's TechSpec seat cover on, I got mine on Revzilla. The other thing I got here too on the front, I can show you guys. I've got a Vortex V3 Gas Cap cover. This is kind of blingy, man. This was, you know, this is a $100 gas cap, but the benefit to it is keyless. So you're no longer having to stop and take your key out of your ignition and, you know, fuck with all that. You just pretty much, all you do, just hit this switch, it breaks loose, a couple of spins, you're right in there. So it just looks a lot better. This is the exact cap that a lot of the top AMA teams in Moto America are running. You save a shitload of weight like that. That's like a quarter of the price, not a quarter of the price, a quarter of the weight of the stock unit. And here's the stock unit, just so you guys can see. I mean, it's, you know, nothing wrong with it, but you got to have the key to use it. And you know, I mean, look at them and tell me which one looks better. The Vortex looks better, obviously. I like how it you know, goes in with the paint here right down the center stripe, the black. It just looks cool, and I like the fact that it's keyless. And very rarely do I take my gloves off if we stop for gas, so it just makes it a little easier to, you know, to get gas, and it just looks good. It's kind of blingy. But as far as my drivetrain, this is I went with driven sprockets. This is a driven 520 conversion kit, steel sprockets. As far as the gearing, I think Yamaha nailed the stock gearing on this motorcycle, so I did not want to alter that. I'm used to the power characteristics of it. I like how it feels, and I just wanted, you know, higher quality components. And with a 520 kit, it's basically just a thinner chain than the stock 530. So the motorcycle is going to spin up a little bit quicker because obviously there's, you know, it's a thinner chain, so there's less rotating mass in the rear. But just the overall quality of the components is better with the 520, and it's you know, it's a gold chain. It just looks good. And you know, just really happy with it. And then in the rear, as you guys can see, I've got a Yoshimura Fender Eliminator kit. The stock unit, you know, for those of you guys that have seen it on any bike, they're atrocious. They're just hideous. But that's just for aesthetics only. But all in all, man, I'm really happy with this motorcycle. I think a naked bike is basically the perfect street bike. I had a buddy of mine, Jim, that had a KTM 1290 Super Duke. I got to spend a little bit of time on that bike and liked it as well. This is just kind of a slightly less powerful version of that motorcycle, but the feel is the same. But if you get a properly set up naked bike, in my opinion, you get one properly set up, you get some seat time on it with a rider that is competent, a fast rider, I think 9 out of 10 times a naked bike is going to be faster in the mountains than a super sport bike, or, you know, just a fared sport bike, I should say. This bike has really wide bars. These are aluminum bars from Yamaha, a tapered aluminum, and they're really wide, and the stance between the wide bar width and the relationship where the foot pegs are at, pretty much just right underneath you, it almost feels like you're riding a big angry supermoto. Is kind of what it feels like. This bike, the ergonomics of it, it feels like because it has sport bike power, but it feels like a big supermoto. So it almost feels like a sport bike and a supermoto had a fucking love child, like they had a baby. And this is what came out. But I really like the feel. A lot of guys, when they first hop on a naked bike after riding, you know, most guys hop off of a fair sport bike, 600, 750, 1000, whatever. And they hop on something like this and they're like, God, you know, I don't know how you can ride this bike. It's so straight up, and it just feels so foreign compared to what I'm used to riding. And honestly, guys, I mean, I've ridden, you know, thousands and thousands. I had an R6 with 45,000 miles, and I bought it brand new. So I've spent a lot of time on sport bikes, and in my opinion, once you get one of these set up, it is nasty fast in the mountains, like super fast. The other good thing about most naked bikes is the power characteristics. You know, like if you guys have ever ridden like an FZ09, KTM, you know, 1290 Super Duke, BMW S1000R, not the double R, but the R version, or Aprilia Tuono, any of those bikes, a Z1000 Kawasaki, they just make insane amounts of torque. Just insane amounts of torque. Like this motorcycle, stock at, what is it, like 1800 RPMs, it's already putting out over 50 foot-pounds of torque, and it never gets below 50 all the way to redline. That's insane. Like, you can be so lazy riding this thing. Like, a lot of the roads that we ride in the mountains have got, you know, a lot of tight switchbacks where you're going from like a, you know, like a third or fourth gear straightaway, and you got to, you know, get set up for that to turn right or left. And most time they're uphill. And on a standard bike, you know, even on a 1000, especially as track focused as the new 1000s are getting, new 1000s are basically like big 600s. You know, they just got more power, but they still don't have a lot of bottom end grunt to them. Where this thing, man, you can just be, I mean, you can ride it lazy. Like, it doesn't matter what gear you're in. You can be in second, you can be in third, keep it in fourth if you want to, never even hit the clutch. Just roll on, and there's always power, man. There's always torque. And it pulls like a freaking freight train. Like, it just puts the power down like a fucking John Deere tractor, you know? It's like if you guys have ever been to a motocross track, and let's say you're riding a 125 or a 252 stroke, and there's a guy on track with you, and he's on a big 450 4-stroke, and he knows what he's doing. You know, he's got so much tractable torque, so low in the power band, just right off the bottom, that he can ride the bike lazy. You know, just burp, burp, just he's always got power. That's very similar and very reminiscent of how this bike feels. But all in all, you know, I've got 6,500 miles on it in the first year of ownership, which is, you know, that's great for me. This bike is more or less a garage queen. It pretty much just sits throughout the week. It's just sitting on stands in my garage. And, you know, the group of guys that I ride with, they all, you know, we're all the same ability, the same speed, and we have the same interests as far as where we like to ride at, and that's in the mountains. And so we pretty much just ride, you know, on Sundays if the weather's good and everybody wants to get up and go. So this bike might only get ridden, you know, 2 or 3 times a month. But, you know, on those days that we do ride, you know, it might be anywhere from 200 to as many as 500 miles some days. I mean, there's a lot of times that we'll, you know, either go from here, head up into Virginia, just hit West North Carolina, cut over to Tennessee, ride like, you know, Shady Valley or something, and cruise on back. And just a lot of fun, man. You know, motorcycle riding is all about camaraderie and, you know, sharing it with guys or girls that you know, have a lot in common with and that share your interests. And you know, anyway, that's my review, guys. I'm real happy with it. If you're on the fence about getting an FZ09, take the plunge, man. They're unbelievable. And don't listen to all the bullshit suspension complaints that you can read about in magazines and online and shit. Half those guys that are saying that shit aren't even fast enough to truly understand how capable this motorcycle really is. And you know, I'll ride circles around those guys up in the mountains. Just saying. But anyway, real happy with it. And guys, thanks again for checking out my channel. My channel is real small, but it just started off as just something that was enjoyable for me to, you know, to run my GoPro, shoot some videos, post them so all my buddies can check it out. But yeah, that's kind of how my channel started. Just real low key, but fun. And for those of you that requested this video, I know it's kind of long. I tend to ramble on, but I hope that you guys got something out of it. And yeah, I hope you any questions that you had about my bike or bike setup. Maybe that helped you guys out. And the last thing, as far as my tires go, I'm running Dunlop Q3s. These tires are unbelievable. Like, these tires are so freaking sweet, man, for the street. I've ridden you know, everything. I've ridden everything but Pirellis, actually. I've ridden, you know, Bridgestone, Metzler, Michelin, Dunlops, and in my opinion, I'm sure that the Pirelli Diablo V2s, I'm sure that they're a better, stickier street tire than this, but they're not going to last as long. And you know, you guys can see, I mean, you know, we don't really give a shit about chicken strips, but I mean, just the roads that we ride, you can see there's not a lot of virgin rubber left on these things. And I've ridden these tires, you know, on different sets. I've ridden them all the way down to the threads, and you know, yeah, they've never slipped one time. Real predictable. The times that we've got caught in rain, you know, the tread pattern of these things holds up really well. But that's just kind of an afterthought. Dunlop Q3s are pretty sweet, but hope you guys liked the video, and if you like the channel enough, subscribe, or just like this video, or if you have a question, just leave in the comments section. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and this is my FZ09. Tickled to death with it, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Later.